Welcome back to another episode of My Sister's TBR. I'm Stacey, and I'm so excited to be here with you today for our end of July wrap-up episode.
And I'm Rebecca. We've got a pretty good episode in store for you guys today, packed with all the juicy, bookish details you crave.
We've been diving into some amazing stories, and we can't wait to share our thoughts and feelings with you.
We've got a mix of genres on our plates this month, from heartwarming contemporary fiction to steamy romantasy, so there's something for everyone.
But the highlight of this episode is our highly anticipated deep dive into our featured read, Funny Story by Emily Henry. Get ready for a spoiler-filled discussion of this hilarious and heartwarming novel that's been sweeping us off our feet.
We'll be dissecting the characters, the plot, and all of the swoon-worthy moments that made this book an instant favorite. So grab your tissues and maybe a glass of wine, because we're about to get real about our feelings.
But before we dive into that, let's just take a quick tour through our July reads. Rebecca, what have you been reading this month?
So, I finished 3 books this month. I started out really strong. I thought I was going to have more read. I thought I was going to have like a really big month with how I started, but 3's not too bad.
No, it's not bad.
Okay.
You've had less books in a month.
Yep. And especially with it being July, like, there's always things on the go, so I'm content with 3.
Yeah.
My first read of this month was Do Not Go Gentle by SenLinYu. Oh. It was amazing.
Give us the gist of what it was.
So this is a fan fiction basically based on if Severus had survived after the war. It's between Hermione. I can say that, right? Between Hermione and Severus.
Yeah. It's actually listed, like, the first thing is that it's a Hermione Granger and Severus Snape ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I rated it. I'm between a 3 and a 4, honestly.
Yeah.
Between a 3 and a 4. I loved it. Like, I just love any extra information or any extra, like, storyline that I can get from
that universe.
That universe. Yeah.
Oh, I feel that.
Give it to me. I will take all of it. Oh.
I think SenLinYu did a really good job at making us really like Hermione and Snape together. Like, Now, I might be biased because I've always liked Snape anyways, but like, a lot of people might turn up their nose to it and be like, that's such a weird pairing and whatever. But this book, like, you have to think about it. Hermione is of age. This is, a couple years after the war.
Yeah, I think she's 19, isn't she? Or 20? She turns 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very consenting, like, it's, it's not weird. People just make it weird because they think, like, oh, Hermione's a kid, but she's not in this. And, I mean, they're so much alike in a way, her and Severus. You think about his past with how much he was bullied, how much Hermione was bullied.
True.
And they're so smart. Both of them are just so insanely smart. And, I mean, how can you not, like, once you start reading this, how can you not ship them?
Yeah. Oh.
Because, again, it is not child Hermione. And it's not Alan Rickman.
No.
Get that out of your head.
Yeah. Oh, amazing though. So
it was really good, yeah.
Good.
I think I rated it like a 4. I couldn't find it on Goodreads, so I couldn't actually enter it myself. But
same.
But yeah, it doesn't compare or, like, match up to Manacled.
Manacled, no.
No. But
still good, but
really good.
Not Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I will ever. No, that's kind of small-minded for me to say. I was gonna say I don't think I'm ever gonna find another fan fiction that's gonna hit as good as Manacled.
No. Yeah, you always have to have that hope that there's something else out there. But
Yeah.
Manacled was I will forever compare things to Manacled. To me,
Yeah.
Manacled is that book that will forever be the comparison. So, I love how we're on the same page with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you start your month?
Okay, so my first book that I finished in July was actually supposed to be a June book because it was our June book club book. But I put it off a little, and I did sort of struggle with some parts of it, but it was Light Lark by Alex Astor. And this is number 1 in a series. I believe it's a trilogy, and they're making a movie or a series.
Oh.
I do know that there is something in the works, which is fantastic. This is a YA romantasy, and it is compared to The Hunger Games quite often.
Interesting.
And I don't know if I really got that vibe. Like, I do understand why people say it's like The Hunger Games because there is like this big thing where everybody's pitted against each other. It's called the Centennial in this, I think. But I'll read out the description and then I'll get into my feelings on it. Every 100 years, the island of Lightlark appears to host the Centennial, a deadly game that only the rulers of 6 realms are invited to play. The invitation is a summons, a call to embrace victory and ruin, baubles and blood. The Centennial offers the 6 rulers one final chance to break the curses that have plagued their realms for centuries. Each ruler has something to hide. Each realm's curse is uniquely wicked. To destroy the curses, one ruler must die. Isla Crown is the young ruler of Wildling, a realm of temptresses cursed to kill anyone they fall in love with. They are feared and despised, and are counting on Isla to end their suffering by succeeding at the Centennial. To survive, Isla must lie, cheat, and betray, even as love complicates everything.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so I rated this a 4, and to be honest, I don't really remember much of what we talked about in the book club meeting for it. I do remember, I do know that it was a bit of a struggle for me to get through, mainly because I'm, getting away from the YA a lot, and now going back into YA, it just felt very juvenile. The writing was lacking a little. I mean, it was a pretty good read. She's she was basically kept in this bubble, and her whole life being taught how to fight, how to the politics. She's just information just being, for her for this one moment. So she's been training her whole life for this Centennial, and there's obviously there's 2 love interests for her. One is more like the villain, the other one is the light. It's very your classic YA love triangle, I think.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Some pretty good twists and turns. There were definitely points that I took a picture of it, and I just I had to send it to Ilsa. I was just I was floored that it happened. It surprised me so much. But yeah, it was a pretty good read. I would recommend it, but again, it felt a little juvenile compared to what I've been reading. So that's pretty well the only reason why I docked a star. So I don't know if that's a me problem, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, I would recommend it, I think. And I think it's going to make for a good movie.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like Hunger Games. So that'll be really interesting to see.
There wasn't as much fighting and killing that I thought would be in it, given that it was being compared to Hunger Games. But yeah, it definitely had that concept, I guess. What was your next read? Because you had one other besides the featured read.
Yes. So my next read was, I talked about this in our last episode, but I finished Do Not Disturb by Freida McFadden.
Oh.
So mystery thriller, of course. Was 325 pages. I rated it a 3.
Oh. Is that your lowest Freida? Have you rated any other Freida? You must have rated another one 3.
I haven't dipped below 3, but I do have another one that's 3.
Oh, okay.
Quinn Alexander has committed an unthinkable crime. To avoid spending her life in prison, Quinn makes a run for it. She leaves behind her home, her job, and her family. She grabs her passport and heads for the northern border before the police can discover what she's done. But when an unexpected snowstorm forces her off the road, Quinn must take refuge at a broken-down, isolated Baxter motel. The handsome and kindly owner, Nick Baxter, is only too happy to offer her a cheap room for the night. Unfortunately, the Baxter Motel isn't the quiet, safe haven it seemed to be. The motel has a dark and disturbing past, and in the dilapidated house across the way, the silhouette of Nick's ailing wife is always at the window, always watching. In the morning, Quinn must leave the motel. She'll pack up her belongings and get back on the road to freedom. But first, she must survive the night. Do Not Disturb is a Hitchcock-style psychological thriller that will keep you tearing through the pages until you reach the shocking conclusion.
So I remember you talking about this one in the last episode, and you seemed like it was off to like a good start. Like you were talking about how it had this like psychological, like it was spooky. So what happened?
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting to only rate this 3. Like, it was going so good. And like, yes, the plot twist blew my mind. Like, I wasn't expecting it at all. And like, like I've said every single other time, like every time I read a Freida McFadden book now, I'm always like, okay, it's got to be this person. Like I'm just shooting for the friggin' stars at this point and just guessing a random person, and it still doesn't end up being that. Mm-hmm. So for the first like 10 chapters, it was from the point of view of Quinn, like the main female character. Ends on a cliffhanger. Then it switches over to her sister's point of view. Then that also ends on a cliffhanger. And it's like, you can compare the timeline. So like, you know, you're getting
to
there
that
soon.
point.
Like
Yeah.
Right.
Like
so
when we were reading Dark Places.
Yeah.
How we knew that we were getting closer and closer. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like kind of similar to that. And then it switches point of view again. It goes to Nick Baxter's wife.
Okay.
So anyway, it was very interesting from all the different point of views, and like you get to like know what brought them to this point of the book, you know, and like talks about like their past. And anyway, very interesting, but I don't know, I feel like with how amazing it was at first and how like I was like, okay, like this is such a good book, like this is so different compared to her other books. I don't know, I just kind of felt at the end of the book it was like, okay,
bit of a letdown.
Kind of, but kind of not. I don't know if I amped it up too much at the beginning.
Oh.
And I just kind of like got let down. It was still really good. I mean, still very worthy of like the 3 stars. But she's had better books. But this one was still actually really good. Like, the plot twist, was not expecting it. Oh, I wish I could. I want to give spoilers, but I can't. Yeah.
I'll read it and then we'll be able to talk spoilers.
Okay. Yes, please. But yeah, still definitely recommend. Yep. Anyway, what else did you read?
My next read was, and I know I talked about it in our mid-month because I was currently reading it, but Heartless by Elsie Silver. Which was book number 2 in the Chestnut Springs series. And Yeah, I think I talked about this one a lot because I was currently reading it for like 2 months.
Okay.
So this one is between, it's Cade, who's one of the brothers, and it's an age gap with the nanny of his child. He's a single dad. He's very much grumpy and sunshine. Like, she's the sunshine, he's the grump. Basically, any trope you can think of is in this book. And I ain't mad about it. It was really good. I rated it 4 stars, probably closer to 4.5. Because it was a fantastic read. I know I rated the first book 4 stars as well, but I think I liked this one more.
Oh.
Yeah. I will read the description. It's a contemporary romance, a western. It's a cowboy. Yeah, he's gruff, a little rough around the edges, but broad-shouldered ranchers with calloused hands and filthy mouths are this city girl's kryptonite. So who am I to resist? But it's in our quiet moments together that he softens. It's when he takes care of me that I realize his hardened exterior is just a facade. It's when I watch him go all sweet with his little boy that I really fall for him. Someone convinced him once that his best wasn't good enough, but I've never felt more cherished than I do in his arms. My contract may say this arrangement is only for 2 months, but my heart says this is forever. So she's the best friend of the female main character from the first book. She, Summer, I think her name was, calls her in as a live-in nanny for Cade, because he keeps like saying no to every nanny that they interview to try to, help him out. So he's working on the ranch. The kid obviously needs more parental, well, not necessarily parental, but just somebody else to help him with raising his son while he's working at the ranch. And it's a lot on his plate. So but he doesn't want to just find some random person, right? Like he's very picky over it. So their meet cute it's right at the very beginning of the novel, so it's not like I'm spoiling anything. She's in a cafe, or they're both in line up for the cafe, and she drops her underwear from her purse out on the floor. He gentlemanly goes to pick it up and pass it to her and says, here you go, because he realizes at that point that it's underwear. Yeah. So that's just a little insight into
Yep.
So when she shows up to be his kid's nanny, he's like, there's no way this girl is just wild, like the whole keeping underwear in her purse thing is kind of weird. So he thinks that, like, she's this big, city girl who's all about the partying and stuff, but yeah, it turns out much, much different.
Oh, I love that. I want to read that series because we're watching Yellowstone right now.
Oh.
And I just...
Yeah, okay, well, it's a good time for you to pick up those books. And they're on KU.
Okay, I will. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty well all I can say about it. I've just been absolutely obsessed with those books. And I think number 3 is The Hockey Player.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's like all brothers who live on a ranch, but there's one that's his best friend that he grew up with them, but he's a hockey player, not on the ranch side. So it's like a little bit different from the first 2 books, but yeah.
Yep.
Naturally, I'm going to be all over that.
Yep.
I read one other book, and I was reading another, but I DNF'd it. So I feel like it counts for this episode.
Yeah. Give it to us.
So the mid-month episode, I was reading Madness, a young decay novel by Jack Whitney. So that's the one with the photographer who gets assigned a job to follow her stepbrother's band and she has this thing with the bassist, and it's like the masked, like the big bucks is getting a picture of him without his mask. She's very much against doing that because she knows who he is. She grew up with him. He's the brother's best friend, right? Yeah, so I DNF'd it at 57%. I don't normally do that. Like, if I DNF a book, it's usually within, like, the first 30%, because by the time I get, you know, close to 60% or past 50%, I'm already halfway through the book, so usually my stubbornness just says, just push through it. Just, to be honest, I don't know at what point was my breaking point for this, but I felt like the plot was just, it was just so bonkers. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around what was happening. It was just completely lacking in actual substance, you know?
Yeah.
And the female main character, Andy, I think her name was, I just got so annoyed by her. Like, her whole personality was just, what personality? That sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I hate being so critical of novels, because to me, like, I enjoy reading. You see the stuff that I read, like, is not like it's classics and, you know, like literary gems, or, you know, I read trash sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
But there's still stuff that just rubs me the wrong way, or, you know, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, write an essay on, you know, like, on all of the, like, the character developments and stuff like that. Like, it's just the plot wasn't there. And it made me so sad because I was 57% through it, but I just had to close it.
The description sounded so good too.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I don't know.
bad.
I think I'm just at the point now, since I've been reading so many fantasies lately, that books that are like, you know, 90% spice, 10% plot are just not doing it for me right now. Maybe if I was in a better headspace to read, you know, the spicy books or the smut, basically, like, yeah, maybe I would have enjoyed it more and I could have pushed through it all. But I don't know. I guess I just lately been wanting more plot.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
We can go through our phases of wanting ooey gooey, steamy books
Touché.
to wanting the complete opposite.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. I think that might have been let me just double check, but I think it may have been my first DNF of the year.
I think so. I don't recall you saying that you've DNF'd a book so far.
Wow. My last DNF was February 26th, 2023.
Wow.
So it has been well over a year since I DNF'd a book.
Good for you.
Wow, I'm getting better.
Good for you.
I think another thing too is where I'm such a mood reader. Like, you pick up a book that you know you're gonna like, so you read it. I get in these moods where I'm just like, this looks okay. This looks like something I might want to read right now. And I'll start it, but then never want to finish it because once I'm out of that mood, I don't want to read it again.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why I've always had so many DNFs, because I would pick up a book not knowing if I'm going to like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people like me out there. So I know I'm not alone in that. I've got one other book that I read this month other than the featured read.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is
and that was, can you guess? Can you guess what I finally read?
Are we finally here?
Are we finally on the same?
Yeah.
Yes. So I finally finished A Court of Silver Flames. Rebecca finished it last month. And I said, this is bullshit because I've been reading it longer, so I look like crap. But no, I finally did get back into, I know I started this way earlier this year. Been putting it off. But I finally got to the point this month that I was just like, I'm, for one, at a pure stubbornness wanting to finish it this month. But also on the other hand, too, I've been reading more fantasy, which has been putting me more in the mood to read ACOTAR.
Yeah.
And just all the buzz that's going around about Sarah J. Maas is just giving me that extra little push that I want to get back into that world. And I mean, if you're here and you're listening, you know what ACOTAR is. Like, I'm not going to pretend that nobody knows what ACOTAR is anymore.
No, literally, since it's brought up in every single episode as well. So
yeah. This was very easy 5-star read. I finished it. I woke up this morning 7:00 so I could finish it before work. That was how, like, well, you know yourself how that last little bit of that book, like, I had, oh my lord, like, what, maybe 8% of the book left, and it was just like bang, bang, bang. So much was happening.
Yep.
That I had to stop it last night so that we could play D&D. And again, like, at a very bad part to pause it. And then to go right to sleep. Like, I didn't have time to read it last night. So I was like, I'm setting my alarm an hour earlier than I need to so I can finish this book. And so this morning I sat there weeping, reading the last little bit of A Court of Silver Flames, and my heart is shattered because we've been in that universe for over a year now, reading this series. And how did I just finish it?
It's not over.
I know, but when can we go back to that? Right?
I know.
And I think it's just a fact that, like, I mean, I know there's still more coming in the ACOTAR world or series, but it's just the fact that those 5 books, I'm never going to get that again. Those 5 books, you know? I can reread it all I want, and I know, like, Throne of Glass and Crescent City is there waiting for us. But it's not the same as,
I know,
as ACOTAR. And
like,
yeah.
They've been such a big part of our lives for the last year.
Exactly.
Like, since we started, well,
yeah. Blow your mind for a minute.
This month is our 1.5 year mark.
I think last month, technically.
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that just blew my mind.
Yep.
That just blew my mind.
We are closer to our 2-year anniversary than we are to our 1-year anniversary. Birthday. Podcast. Birth.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah. Nuts. But, like, a lot of this podcast has been about ACOTAR.
Yeah.
A lot of it has
almost
been.
Every episode.
Yeah, we've brought it up in some capacity.
Crazy.
Ugh. So now I just feel empty now, because here we were living in this universe for so long, and then I had to just close the book and just put it down and go to work.
Pretend like, go back to your life.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But
yeah, we need to find another series now to obsess over.
Yeah. I don't know where to go from here. I know, obviously either Crescent City or Throne of Glass, like, that's the logical next move, but I'm in a slump now.
I know. Yeah.
I'm so sad. And I absolutely adore. I remember when we first started talking about ACOTAR, and I said that I think the reason why I stopped reading the first book back in like 2016, whatever it was that I first started that series, and then DNF'd it, which is to me bonkers that I did that. But I remember thinking how much I didn't like Nesta. And I blamed her for the reason that I stopped reading it, because I did not like that character so much.
Yep.
But I found a whole new love and appreciation of Nesta throughout this entire book.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And anybody who says that Nesta is not like a good character, or she didn't have like, you know, the best character development, they're drunk.
Reread it.
Reread it. Because, oh my God.
Yeah.
I like had chills. I was crying when I was reading it this morning, when I was finishing it. Like, yeah. So anyways, we won't include any of the spoilers that we just talked about. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't read anything else other than the featured read.
All right. So, our featured read is up next. If you have not read Funny Story, if you intend to and you don't want to listen to some spoilers, you may as well get out.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be spoiling everything.
All right. So, Funny Story by Emily Henry was 395 pages. It is a, what do you want to call that? Contemporary romance. Yep. That's
yeah, contemporary romance.
Daphne always loved the way her fiancé Peter told their story. How they met on a blistery day, fell in love over an errant hat, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He really was good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. Which is how Daphne begins her new story. Stranded in beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian that barely pays the bills, and proposing to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowak. Scruffy and chaotic, with a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose coworkers know so little about her that they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? But it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, right?
Oh my God.
I rated this a 5.
Me too. Like, easy.
Easy. So easy. I want to read every single one of Emily Henry's books.
So, what have you read by Emily Henry? Is it just Happy Place and Funny Story now?
Yes. I have Book Lovers at home on my shelf, and I need to read it.
Yeah.
But yes, that's all I've read.
I've rated every book that I've read by her so far 5 stars, other than Happy Place. I rated 4.
Damn.
Yeah. She is like one of those authors to me that's just an auto buy, auto read. Just everything everything Emily Henry is just, I don't know, it just speaks to me on a whole different level as any other books or any other author.
That.
Yeah.
Yep.
I honestly don't think she can do wrong. How did this one rank up to like Happy Place? Like, how did you think it was better or not as good?
I don't know if it's just my headspace, but I thought that this one was a lot better.
Okay. Same.
Yeah. Everything about it, like her job. I would frickin' not necessarily with the children, but
just librarian. Yeah.
Yep. I love how much she loves to read. I love her inner dialogue and how like there was one part.
Funny.
She's so funny. There was one part closer to the end, and she says that like it was actually I think like the last chapter. She says that she goes up to the door, flattens down her skirt, and then opens it up, and then in brackets it says the door, not my skirt.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like even just like little tiny details like that like makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I learned a lot just because like she had a lot of character growth as well.
Oh gosh,
like dealing with like her trauma with her like her parents and the way that all of that left her feeling and how she reacts to situations and stuff like that. It's all completely justified with what she went through, or what like she continues to go through with her dad. But I don't know. I just felt like it was very informative. Like the last couple of chapters, like when she was like talking about, you know, like that she needs to start trusting and you know, man, I was like, heck yeah, like this is you don't need therapy. Just read good books like this.
Exactly. Yeah, so like speaking of like her dad, how did you think that her complicated relationship with him and then like the constant moving with her mom, how do you think that like really affected her relationships as an adult?
Well, I mean, with Miles, like she went into like fight or flight mode and like just not fight, but she just took flight.
Yeah. It's almost like the way that like I perceived it was her relationship with Peter was very safe. It was a strong foundation because he was really close with his family, which meant she was able to be a part of that. She never had that growing up. That consistent foundation is the best way to put it. And but Miles feels like he's so spontaneous. She doesn't feel that safe foundation with him, so I think that's why like you said, like very flighty.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was definitely had issues with like trusting people. Trusting that people would stay in her life. So that's sad. Oh, and I love her so much.
Yeah. I know.
So speaking of her and Peter, so when we first meet Daphne, she's obviously like happily engaged to Peter. Their entire lives are planned out. Do you think that she was actually in love with Peter? Or was it more so like the idea of him and the life that they could live together?
I think it was literally just the comfort.
Yeah.
And yeah, like like you said, like she's never had that comfort and stability before with her father and then with her mom always moving around. So I feel like that was the main thing that she was in love with. Because like as soon as she was so happy with Miles.
Yeah, you see a whole different version of Daphne when she's with Miles.
Yeah. Like, she wasn't settling anymore. Like, I feel like, I think it was literally just...
And it was brought up so many times that it was always, like, whatever events or whatever they were doing, her and Peter, I mean, was always what he wanted. It was his hobby. It was his family. It was his friend. It was, you know, like, so... Her entire life with Peter, she just got absorbed by it.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't her own person. She didn't have her own hobbies and stuff like that because it was always what he wanted. And like even down to what she was eating.
Yeah, that's so messed up.
Yeah.
I love the part at the end when she was like, I'm not putting my all into someone again. Like I'm not losing myself, or however she worded it. She wants to make sure that she's got her own house. She's got her own furniture. Like she doesn't ever want to be stuck in that situation. Too. Like that was, I friggin' felt that so much because with, you know, like when we broke up, I had fucking nothing. I sold my bed. I had sold all of my furniture. I had friggin' nothing, right? So, like, I loved that, how she learned that, and she's like, I'm not letting that happen to me again. Because, like...
Coming from somebody, like, for myself, when I was in a relationship from high school up until I was 25, that was a very crucial part of my life that I lived molding myself to him, to his interests, to all of, like, whatever he wanted to do. I had no freaking idea who I was as a person, because my entire life to that point felt like it was revolving around this other person. So
and that's what your 20s are for like
figuring out who you are. Exactly. So, like, I understood that, like, I felt that pretty deep when, you know, when she was coming to, like, the realization of all that, and knowing that, you know, she had to make sure that she knew who she was, what she wanted to do, where she was going, before ever committing to something or somebody else like that again.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is huge character development. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
So when Daphne and Miles started living together, what was, like, your first impression of him?
Honestly, I was completely okay with him. I can understand why she wouldn't like him from what she thought that he was about. Like,
yeah. Well, first impression, like, by the way that he was, like, she said, like, he smelled like weed all the time, like, very scruffy. Like, just to me, he put me in mind of, like, a stoner kid, you know, like,
yeah,
the way that she was describing him. I mean, yeah. I still was very smitten with him from the start because of, like, their interactions together, but I can see, like, what you were saying, she had this idea of what he was like going into it. Yeah.
And especially, she's very, like, conservative, big on organization and, like, scheduling and stuff like that. And then he's the complete opposite. But I think that he was really good for her to, like, let her, or get her to let loose and be spontaneous. And I don't know.
Did you get the impression at all that she helped his character development?
Oh, definitely.
You think so? Because to me, as I was reading it, I didn't really see much character development on his side. Like, it felt like he was more so to help her versus the other way around. Like, he seemed like he got his shit together pretty quick on his own. Like, because I don't think he really needed much character development. You know, like, he was a great character from the start. Then again, so was she. But did he really have, like, I can't remember. Do I have him painted as this, like, perfect character?
Actually, yeah, no, now that you're saying that, I think...
Because I know he helped her a lot with coming to terms with her trauma, and I know he had issues with his family.
But it was not very...
I felt like they touched on it, but it wasn't, like, a big...
Let's just say he's perfect.
He's perfect.
God, he's so nice. Reading this, I'm not even kidding. I'm like, man, men like this do not friggin' exist.
I know. You wonder why I read so much?
I want a man written by a woman. Men written by women.
I seen something the other day that said men raised by single mothers are basically the male characters that females write. It's like the equivalent, but I don't know if I've ever met one to stand up to men written by female authors.
I had an ex who was very, very close with his mom and was basically mainly raised by his mom, but he was one of the worst ones.
Didn't fit the bill.
Nah.
No. Okay. We'll debunk that real quick then.
God.
So, when they got the wedding invitation for Peter and Petra, how did you feel about that? Like, what was going through your head at that point?
For a second I was like, okay, this is not realistic. Like, this wouldn't actually happen in person. Like, that's so extreme, so extra for them to be engaged that quick. I get that they're childhood best friends, but, like,
yeah,
you don't throw proposals around like friggin'.
But yeah, it was a little on the, like, what the hell side.
Yeah. I love how they were like, oh yeah, like, we're gonna go and, like, we're gonna show up and just eat the cake and, like, make the most out of it. Like, same.
Yeah.
Probably would have done the same.
Yeah. I loved, like, their whole being petty and knowing that they were being petty and just leaning into it. I love that because it felt so realistic. Like, that felt like what a normal person would do.
Well deserved as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just thought that the whole, like, fake relationship side of it just really added that, like, humor to it, too.
Yeah.
How they were taking, like, the pictures and, yeah.
I want a Miles.
I know.
Want a Miles. And I love the end when he was, like, telling her that he loved her, and he was like, I know we have, like, nothing in common, and, like, we're so different, but, like, I love you, to stay, like, please stay. And I was like,
oh, God.
Oh, I want a man like that. God.
So, speaking of them and their relationship and how opposite they are, do you think, now I know, like, the epilogue was still, like, a couple years in the future, I think it was. I don't think it was that long, right?
430 something days later.
Right. Glad you remembered that because I did not. Do you think that they, like, in your own mind, do you think that they would make it long term? With kids?
I think so.
As seniors?
I think so.
In an old age home?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because, like, their connection, the fact that, like, they still had as deep of a connection 400 and something days later, after they first, like, you know, that's, like,
they're out of the honeymoon phase.
But, like, they're out of the honeymoon phase. They moved in together.
I think she did a really good job as well, Emily, with writing the side characters.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, I loved Ashley.
Yeah. Like, that was a really good, like, very eclectic group that she had written, and all these characters.
The poker nights. Oh my God. They all sounded so fun.
It did. It really, really did. This book has solidified my want to work in a library and to just have old people as friends.
Yeah. Also, I want to go to a readathon. That sounded so much fun.
Oh my God. Like, all of the, like, different rooms being done up as...
that was amazing. Did you notice the Harry Potter part?
I sure did. Oh my God.
That was amazing.
There was actually quite a few, like, little references and, like, little Easter eggs and stuff in this book.
So one thing that I highlighted was, he twirls me, pulls me back and closer, our bodies fitting snugly together, every point of friction its own little sun, heat and gravity and heat and gravity. I don't know, I just loved that. Like, that sounded so nice.
Yep.
Like, the words. Ugh.
Oh.
Give it to us.
Here's the very first thing that I highlighted, and it's on page 22. Hell, I'm old enough to have a daughter named Renesmee on one of those U5 soccer teams where the kids take turns kicking the ball the wrong way, then sitting down midfield to take off their shoes. Renesmee. Like, yeah, let's just drop that Twilight bomb on page 22.
Yep.
Oh my God. And then there was a Dungeons and Dragons reference on page 52.
What was that again?
She said, also, this is very relatable after going through a breakup. I want to get out, she says. I want to look hot in public and drink alcohol and talk about something other than Dungeons and Dragons. But opposite, because that's all I want to talk about. So,
yeah. Oh my.
oh, and that just hit so hard. He told you to trust him, and that's what you did. That's what you're supposed to be able to do with people you love. They just don't always live up to it.
Ain't that right?
Yeah. There's the reference. Once in 7th grade, Mom took me to the midnight launch party for a fantasy series. They passed out wands, which were just sticks they probably found in the brush behind the library. It was silly. It was also magical. I chose a twig with pale green lichen crawling over it, and Mom chose one that was bone white. I felt like I was as close as I'd ever be to true magic.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also loved the way that she wrote the chapter titles, how it was like 40 days until I leave or I can leave or whatever, right? And then it switched to 44 days until I could leave if I still want to, in brackets. And then in chapter 23, the title was just 24 days until the readathon. Not when she could leave. It was, yeah. I loved how she did that little change in this chapter title. But also what I thought was really nice, and I had to highlight it, was in her acknowledgements. She said, thank you to the booksellers, the librarians, the bloggers, the reviewers, the people who make fan art and videos and beautiful pictures, the ones who lend their copies out and the ones who borrow those copies, the day one readers, and those just picking up one of my books for the first time. I thought that was such a nice little thank you to people. Nice. Right? I guess just overall, would you recommend it?
Oh, God, yes. God, yes.
Stupid question.
I'm very stingy with my 5 stars.
Yeah.
This was every bit deserving of a 5-star.
Writing, characters, plot,
yeah,
everything was just fantastic.
Everything.
Yep. Highly recommend to anybody if you're looking for like a really good rom-com, feel good, hit you in the feels, and just to see some really great chemistry between characters. I think this is where we will sign off, I think. But first, give us a rate, hit follow, pop over to our Instagram, do the same thing. Alrighty.
Bye.
Toodles.